Hello and welcome along to the VMTV Rugby Pod. Six Nations is back. Ireland have just picked their team out. They head to Cardiff this weekend. It's going to be a cracker, isn't it?
Yeah, everyone's excited about this. I think obviously there's an extra bit of intrigue with Warren Gatland coming back as coach of Wales again. He gets the best out of those Welsh players. He's a proven track record, and they're probably not going into this tournament in the best place regarding their form in November and the last year's Six Nations. So he's gone back to and picked a lot of experience. I think it's 952 caps in that Welsh side. So very experienced. It's a tough place to go. I've played there. Sometimes they can be off form, but they've proven over the years that they're very difficult to beat, and they'll certainly be up for this game and want to start really well against Ireland.
Yeah, Matt, as we've talked about, he's gone for the old guard. Plenty of Wales players in there throughout his time. I think there's 8 involved that were in his team in 2012. And also Ireland, they've struggled there. 2013 is the last time they won in the Six Nations.
Yeah. You look at the age profile of that Welsh team. It's a bunch of wild warriors, isn't it? Look, there's 9 of the 23 are 32 or over. Like that's staggering. And you compare that to the age profile of Ireland, where you've got 13 of the Irish 23 are between 25 and 30, which you'd have to say are the most productive rugby years. So the long-term prognosis for that Welsh side is not good. That's an aging side. That's still a very good bunch of players. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying the long-term prognosis is not good. But the short-term, I think Ireland have a real battle on their hands, because the emotion that's spinning around Welsh rugby with the explosive BBC show about the toxic culture and some horrific situations in the Welsh Rugby Union and the resignation of the CEO, combined with sacking their old coach, bringing in Gatland, the return of the Warrior, the whole emotional state of Welsh rugby is really primed for a performance on Saturday. So Ireland are going in to a real battle. I think if you've got this Welsh team game 4, it'd be a very different scenario. But game 1, they pose a significant threat, and Ireland will have to be really at a high standard on Saturday.
Alan, what do you make of Warren Gatland saying it's a bit of a free shot? Is that just a few mind games?
It's a strange one, I think, because normally he would kind of talk down Ireland a bit and question their abilities and the way they play. He's done that a few times over the years, and he's intriguing to listen to, and he brings excitement back into the Six Nations. And like I said, he's a proven track record. For them saying it's a free shot, I think he probably means that Ireland are ranked number 1 team in the world. He's gone down the road of kind of building up Ireland, saying they're a brilliant team, and it's going to be really difficult for his side. Nobody expects Wales to win. So I think that's where he's gone. But, behind the scenes, they're going to be so pumped. They're under a lot of pressure. There's a lot of stuff that's gone on, as Matt alluded to, controversies in the Welsh Rugby Union, the results in, Georgia beating them in November, Italy beating them the last game of the Six Nations. They're a very proud rugby nation, and they've always been tough to beat. So I think he's kind of indicating that's a free shot because people don't expect them to win. But make no mistake about it, he's confident, and he will believe, and he will make his players believe that they can go out and win this game. And it's a very dangerous prospect for Ireland. But I suppose there's a little bit less pressure when you're not expected to win. There's probably a little bit more pressure. That's how you absorb that pressure on the Irish team, given what happened in 2019 and the expectation, the excitement going into that World Cup or to that Six Nations where England turned us over in that first game in Dublin. And it started a spiral of really poor results. Ireland being in a bit of a rut and everyone fancying their chances. So I think the team are better equipped this time. They've more to their game plan. They've more to their attack. But they're going to be under no illusions. Warren Gatland is going to have his team really pumped up, a lot of experience in there, and they're going to try and frustrate Ireland and go after them physically. So it's a really intriguing battle. It's one that on paper you think Ireland should win this game. Their form is better. They're in a good place, but we're all pretty anxious and aware of what happened in 19, and hopefully that'll help the team as well. They're conscious too, so they know they're going to have to really roll up their sleeves here, that this team is going to be really pumped up for them, and they'll try and implement a game plan to stop Ireland. But the free shot scenario is really trying to take a little bit of pressure off his team.
Matt, he also said this week he probably got it wrong with Johnny Sexton missing out in that Lions tour. Sexton this week has also made it clear that he, was a big hurt for him, and it sort of gave him a chance to get things back on track, and look how good his form's been since then. But what do you make of that situation? Like, why is he addressing that? Obviously he was asked about it, but is there anything in that?
Look, I think what long-term coaches have is honesty, and they learn, as in evaluating their own performance, and they learn and grow, like all of us. And Gatlin's been around a long time, long time. He started coaching Ireland, I think it was 98, might have been 97. He's been around a long time. And he would have looked back and seen the progress of what he did with selecting Marcus Smith even as a replacement, not selecting Johnny straight up, seeing what Smith's done since then and what Sexton's done, and he'd look back and say, wow, I made a big mistake. He didn't address Gary Ringrose's failure to be selected either, which was a big mistake, and probably James Ryan as well. But Sexton was obviously the huge one. And, let's give Gatlin credit. It takes a person with some character to publicly say, look, I got it wrong and I regret it. And he obviously does. Now, Johnny, being the ultra-competitive individual he is, might say, well, that's all very good, Gaddy, but I'm going to jam it down your throat come Saturday. But I don't think there's anything but honesty in that answer, and I think we've got to give him a bit of respect for the honesty. And I think there's another aspect to this. Gaddy's attitude is like Quinny said. He's a great one for manipulating the press like Eddie Jones used to do. Praise your opponent, say there's no pressure on us. Everything's on you. You're a great team. We're just going out there. We're going to make it. We're going to swing a few, and if one lands, we'll take it. Now we all know behind the scenes, that's a gross understatement of what really is going to happen. And Wales, I think, will go back to Wazza ball, Gaddy ball, whatever you want to call it, a similar version of it, something the team's got confidence in, and they'll go at them. And that sort of game plan goes at Sexton too. They'll run at Johnny in attack, try and keep the ball, lots of kicking, deny Ireland lineouts, keeping the ball in play, and then their own set piece will be huge, which is going to be a massive day for Finlay Bealham, because that's what they're coming at him for sure.
Yeah, and if we look at the Ireland team, Matt says Wales are run down Sexton's channel. Outside Sexton is Stuart McAvoy to help him. He gets the nod at 12. He had a pretty good autumn. Is that what you would have gone for?
I'm not sure. I think obviously if Bundyaki had been playing matches and been match sharp, I think he would have been the natural one to slip in there. Stuart McAvoy has been really, really good for the last 2 seasons. I think he's shown more to his game than just being a battering ram. His hands are really good. A lot of offloads. His big strength is his physicality and his size, and he can get over the gain line and get his hands through. But he's a good distributor of the ball as well, and he's got sharper. I think he's got fitter. Looks like he can play at that high tempo more often and get more touches. But he was unfortunate to pick up the injury in November, starting against South Africa. Made a bit of a miraculous recovery to get back and be involved against Australia as well. So, I think they think highly of him. I think he deserves a shot at it, and he's been playing well for Ulster. And Ulster have gone through a tough time, a tough period of matches where they lost a lot of games. But McCluskey has had a lot of involvements, played in a lot of those games, so he's pretty sharp. And they see something that he can do a job from on Saturday, and that's why he's got the nod. We don't know the ins and outs of the Bundyaki situation and why he wasn't being picked by Connacht. There's lots of rumours going around, but he hasn't played very much rugby really this season, and he's still a brilliant player, Bundyaki. He's on the bench, and you'll get an option of a hungry Bundyaki coming off the bench. But Stuart McCluskey is a really good player. He's going to come up against a young player in Joe Hawkins who's similar size and probably strength and ability. He's only one cap. He's very young, but McCluskey deserves his chance. He's been knocking on the door for years, and it would be a shame if he, didn't get back in around this Ireland team, because he's good enough to be there. And let's hope he has a big game on Saturday.
Matt, we've heard the roof's going to be closed. What type of game plan do you think we can see from Ireland?
Well, it certainly suits Ireland to close the roof. It's one of, if you try to explain to Americans, you've got a stadium with a roof, but sometimes you don't close it when it's raining. They look at you and go, what? Why wouldn't you close it? What's the point of having a roof on a stadium if you roll it back, Like, it should be closed. The whole point of having a roof in Cardiff is to play so when it doesn't rain. But on occasions, it suits Wales. So I think there's two parts to this. It certainly suits Ireland. But the reason it's closed is obviously Wales have got a bit of a plan there as well. But, if Ireland can get their attacking game back anywhere near the standard that we saw in the summer in New Zealand, it'll be too much for Wales. But they haven't done that in November. And it's not possible to play at that level all the time, because teams are working you out. Defensive coaches are looking for ways to disrupt your attacking system. Obviously, not having Todd Furlong, the best tight head prop in the world, not only as a scrummager and a line-out lifter, but his ball play as in that role in the attack, the way the Irish use their props. Finlay Bealham has got big shoes to fill on that account. So I think we'll still see the same type of attack that we've seen for the last 12 months. It's a very potent team with Sexton back, makes a huge difference. Jamison Gibson Park, the ruck speed, the way he gets the ball away so quick, and the hands of players like Todd Byrne and James Ryan, where their ability to either offload to Josh Van der Fleer or pull out the back to Sexton coming around the corner, then the plays they have, especially targeting at George North at outside centre. I don't think that's his best position. They persist in picking there, I think, because they've got no one else. But he finds that shifting, drifting defence hard. And it is very, very difficult to do. It's what makes Ringrose look so good, because he's great at it. But I think that will be what Ireland do. But what will Wales do? What will Wales do? I think that's the great unknown. We can speculate, but that's the great unknown, because we don't know what Gatland is going to put together. He hasn't got a lot of time, so that's what makes me feel he's going to go back to Gaddy ball and a lot of close runners, a lot of holding the ball, a lot of trying to be physical and get penalties and grind into games, which they did so well when Gatland was there a few years ago.
Alan, this Warren Ball, could he surprise us? Or is that asking too much?
Well, it depends what Alex King wanted to do when he came back in as well. He's brought him in as the attack coach. So I don't think they can drift too far away from, I'm not sure they were sure themselves what kind of a game plan they were playing under Wayne Pivac. He was trying to make it more expansive and attack more in the wider channels. Gatty's game plans worked, and they're direct. They're physical. They resolve a little bit around fitness and tempo and just constantly moving. So I don't know. I don't think he's going to drift too far away. But they've some good players. When you look at that Welsh backline, Josh Adams and Rio Dyer, incredibly quick wingers. If they can get the ball to them, they're footballers. They're very, very good players. Dan Bigger obviously has a lot of experience, and he's a real kind of strong, resilient figure for them as well. And Liam Williams coming in at full back. He's been out for a good period of time. I think Lee Halfpenny obviously picked up a knock, and Liam Williams has come straight in there, having played very little rugby. this season. But I can't see him drifting too far away. But I still think you've got to be prepared for Wales, throwing caution to the wind a little bit here. And when you take, it depends what kind of approach and mentality and what kind of instructions they're given. If they're given a little bit of freedom, of course, they'll still play a direct game. They'll kick a fair bit, and they won't want to overplay in Ireland's half. If your form is a little bit down and not where you want it to be, ideally you don't want to play around too much in your own half. But they'll have a strategy, I think, and Ireland have just got to be ready for that. I think they will kick a lot. Bigger will test Hugo Keenan, Mac Hansen and James Lowe as much as they can. And they'll try and overpower Ireland. They have a very good back row. It's a superb back row. And Tipperick, Jack Morgan this year has been absolutely brilliant for the Ospreys. He's a really, really top-class player. Big prospect. He could have a really big Six Nations. And Falatau, he's a wonderful player as well when he's on song. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see, but I don't see him drifting too far away from the way they've played under Warren Gatland before.
Matt, Alan's just naming out players there, and the more he says them, the more they are great players, and it could be a difficult afternoon. And also, he mentioned Alex King, but they also have brought in Mike Forshaw, who did a really good job at Sale Sharks defensively. So they're going to be hard to break down.
They are, mate. Just this Kenny Owen, fantastic player. Alan Wynne-Jones, inspirational, talismanic leader. Baird is his second row partner, has grown in stature since the Lions tour. As Quinny said, Dan Bigger, Tomas Williams. This is just what I say. These are a team of aging warriors, and they have been great players. Long term, it's not good. They're too old.
Matt, could I ask you a question?
Yeah.
If you're coaching against Ireland on Saturday and you're Warren Gatland, you're coaching because you've coached against Ireland, you've coached in the Six Nations. What would you try and do to stop Ireland?
Well, the first thing is you deny Ireland their set piece. Ireland want set piece players. So minimise your penalties so they can't kick out, and don't kick the ball in the touch. Kick the ball long in the tram tracks. Really work on your line speed, your kick chase, and then attack them at the scrum. Don't allow them to get that rhythm that they love off set plays. That's what they've got to do. And then the other part is you've probably got to risk a bit like South Africa did, compact your defensive line and really go up hard. So when they're trying to pass out the back, you've got someone there to hit them before they get the ball wide.
I probably have some memories in my head of Ireland going over there in the last we haven't won there since 2013, the Six Nations. And there's a couple of games kind of jump out to me where, there was one in 2015, Wales won 23-16.
2019 Alan as well.
2019 as well, yeah. That was one where Ireland were backs to the wall, the roof was left open. It was a case of they're going for a Grand Slam, different positions and different scenarios. But a lot of these games that I can think back to, 2017, 22-9 to Wales, they went after our halfbacks. They got into Johnny Sexton's face. They tried to, be incredibly physical. I think of Navidi and Tipperick in 2019 causing havoc at the breakdown.
Yeah.
Alan Wynne-Jones pinching a line out or two, and Ireland dropping their heads a little bit, and just, one or two little decisions going against them, refereeing decisions, and, the game is gone. And you just got to feel, and I was on commentary for a good few of those games, you just feel Wales have that energy, they have that edge, and it's amazing the way form can sometimes go out the window. And we've seen some of these Welsh players at times over the years when they've played for their regions, come to Limerick or come to the RDS or go to Belfast or even to the sports ground as well, and just not look like, God, they're not the same. They put on a Welsh jersey. And you kind of referenced it there that I'm talking about players. When I go through and I've done my team, I've kind of writing out the names. You're just thinking these guys are big game players. There's a lot of British and Irish lines in there. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to go out and play and be brilliant, but they have it in the locker somewhere. Yeah. And they won't be fearful. So they'll love the challenge of this, and that's what makes it really intriguing for Ireland. Any sort of a win for me on Saturday is a positive result for Ireland, because this is difficult. And sometimes when we go into the Six Nations, or when all teams go in, you can train really well. You have minimum preparation time, and you just don't know how that kind of car is going to start off and how it's going to move forward. Sometimes it moves perfectly, and other times it stutters a bit. So it's about results, and sometimes it's about cup rugby. And I think they'll have a game plan, and I agree, Matt. That's why I asked you as a coach. I think they'll try and come up with a strategy about kicking, getting line speed, being physical with Ireland, going after their set piece. Most teams do all this stuff anyway. It's part of the plan. But you get a break or two and you win a 50-50 in the air. A ball dribbles into touch, the crowd are going mad. And that's the stuff Ireland have to deal with. I think they're well capable of. There's a lot of experience in this Irish side as well. So let's not kid ourselves. There's a lot of really good players who've been to played in a lot of big games away from home and won, namely this group in New Zealand. So it's intriguing, but it's a strong side. I think Ireland, Tyke Furlong is a loss. He's a big loss in this side. But it's a challenge now for Finlay Bealham, and they've got to get that scrum right early on. Yeah,
Matt, picking up on those points there of how good Wales could be, but this Ireland team, as Alan said, went to New Zealand, won a series. Surely they're better equipped now than the last couple of years to deal with this and come out on top.
They are. Look, Ireland should win this game. The rugby world expects Ireland to win this game. I guess what Quinny and I are talking about, having been there, rugby's an emotional game. And Wales are going to put in an emotional performance. There's so many factors leading into what I believe Wales will really fire this team up for this game, especially that first 20 minutes, first 30 minutes of the game. And one of the worst weeks in Welsh rugby history, as Quinny said, like losing to Georgia, losing to Italy, led Australia by 20 points plus at half time and lost in the last second. Then they sack a coach. And when you sack a coach, usually the next game the team responds because the players know in their hearts, it wasn't all the coach. We contributed. And so you have this, we call it a dead cat bounce, where a team that hasn't been playing well, when the coach is sacked, the next game they play well in every sport. It's not a rugby thing, it's a sporting thing. It's a human thing. A human condition. So I think all these things, plus the return of Gatlin, I think there's a lot of emotion going to be there at that stadium. And exactly what Quinny said. What are the things in rugby that beats talent? Physicality and aggression can beat talent. Now that's what Wales are going to bring in spades. Come back to your point, Stu. This Ireland team that can go to New Zealand, that is the most challenging rugby environment in the world, away to New Zealand in test matches. Mightn't have the same atmosphere as the Principality. I almost called it Millennium again. I think I always called it Millennium. But if you go to New Zealand and you win, mate, that gives you confidence. You can go into any environment in the world and you can have confidence. If I can win, my team can win in New Zealand, we can win in Cardiff. So Ireland are going in well equipped to win this game. I think what Alan and I are trying to get across to everyone that's listening to the pod, this is not a walk in the park. This is going to be a really tough battle. And as Quinny said, 1-0, we'll take 1-0 for sure, because this isn't going to be easy.
Yeah, sure. We shall see what will happen on Saturday. Elsewhere on Saturday, must move on to other teams in Scotland and England. Alan, a New England with Steve Borthwick. Scotland, interesting times there with Gregor Townsend. Scotland have actually got the better out of England over the last couple of years in the Six Nations. Which way do you see that one going? And do you think we'll see, I suppose, as much a different type of England or what?
Yeah, it depends. Obviously, Steve Borthwick is taking over. Kevin Sinfield is in as defence coach. They'll certainly bring a bit of inspiration. They both come from Leicester. I think the way England have played in the last couple of years under Eddie Jones has been pretty confusing. They've been trying to, I think I remember back Eddie Jones criticising Ireland for kicking a lot and being bland. And there's a couple of, Warren Gatland did it a bit too, didn't he? But a lot of the time, England stats, they kicked more than Ireland. when he made a lot of those comments over the years. But my point here is that I think they played the wrong type of game for the players they have. I think that, England have always been very powerful and physical, and they'll always have that ability to pick the bigger players, particularly up front. Tuolangi being back in their group helps him a lot. He's always a big player for England. And I think that, they will change the way they play. I think they'll express themselves a little bit more. And I think they're a dangerous prospect in the Six Nations, because, they start with 2 home games, and that will, you'd expect them to win those 2 games, give them momentum. But Scotland will fancy their chances. They were there 2 years ago. They had a brilliant win there. They won again last year up in Murrayfield as well. So a lot of these Scottish players, it's a similar enough Scottish team that we've kind of seen in the last couple of years that's probably underperformed a little bit. They've got a big result here, namely the English ones, and then they end up losing the week after to somebody else. So I think and that happened 2 years ago. They lost to Wales the week after beating England at Twickenham. So they play Wales in Murrayfield next week again. So it's the same run of fixtures, but they're capable of it. Finn Russell, Ben White at scrum half. He's a very good player. Probably he has that ability to really snipe and play with pace and tempo, and that's what they want. Finn Russell on his day, it's the debate that goes on and on and on. His ability when he plays well and he does some magic, he can unlock defenses. He can do something special. To go to Twickenham at any stage is always going to be difficult, but they'll be confident. Stuart Hogg, Hugh Jones at outside centre, Van der Merwe. Good team. I like Matt Fagerson at number 8. I think he's a brilliant player. I think he's a really all-round brilliant number 8, and he's shown his quality at this level. Jamie Ritchie and Crosby has played well for Edinburgh as well, so they have good players there. My fear sometimes with Scotland is that the engine room, the second rows, Grant Gilchrist and Johnny Gray are in there, or Richie Gray are in there. They're 2 good footballers, but sometimes they lack that bit of physicality. They have a strong front row, Schumann and WP Nell. So it's a tough challenge for them, but they will fancy their chances, and I think they have a real crack here to go at England and kind of find chinks in the armour, if you like. But I do expect that Borthwick will. The English players there'll certainly be less pressure playing under Eddie Jones. I think he had a real fear factor, and that was starting to filter out. And I think player power pushed Eddie Jones. There's lots of debates about, the decision to get rid of him. It's divided opinion, I think, in some fronts. But I think if you ask the players deep down, it wasn't an enjoyable environment all the time. And that's what cost him his job in the end. Obviously, the results weren't good either, and they were poor in November. Argentina really exposed them, and South Africa.
Yeah, Matt, just as Alan goes through the Scotland team there, I want to look more in detail at the England team, the 10 and 12, with, it looks like, Owen Farrell, Marcus Smith. Sorry, the opposite way around, Marcus Smith at 10, Owen Farrell probably at 12. That dynamic, you haven't been sold on yet. Would that be fair enough? And you feel Marcus Smith does it at a club level, but maybe at international level hasn't just stepped up to what you thought he could maybe deliver?
He just plays far too deep, Stewie. Marcus Smith at Harlequins is a superb player, but he does not bring that same technique of a 10 into international rugby. Now, Nick Evans, who was the attack coach for Harlequins when they won the premiership, has been brought in as attack coach of England. So that may have a marked effect on Smith's play internationally. But if you go back to that Argentinian game that Alan was just commenting on, there was a play in that game from a line out where England are trying to attack, right? They're in Argentina's half. Smith takes the ball at least 10 metres deep behind the line out and just passes to Owen Farrell. So Owen Farrell gets the flanker from the tail of the line out. He gets the 10 and the 12. And there's just nowhere for that England attack to go. So Smith has to attack the line, has to be much, much flatter, has to attract defenders before he passes, as he does with Harlequins. But he's not doing that at international level. So what Borthwick will bring, I think, to England. Remember, he was Eddie's coach, assistant coach of forwards at Japan, and for, I think, 2 seasons or 3 seasons at England. So he knows the setup and the players know him. He'll bring a real steal to their set play. So you've got Farrell. I think Farrell as a second 5, as a distributor at inside centre is a really good play. But not if his 10 is deep. No one can survive that. His 10 has to be a threat like Sexton does and like Ross Byrne is now doing. They've got to take it to the line and expose themselves, get their hips square and go forward, which is what Smith does not do. So Smith, to me, is the key to that English side. If Borthwick gets their set, all the things that Quinny just said, if Borthwick gets that going, and I have confidence that he will because he's done it before with England and he certainly did it with Leicester, Smith will be the key. So if Nick Evans can come in and just say to Smith, listen, mate, you've got to take more responsibility when the ball's in your hand. You can't just shift it on to Farrell. That's not the way the game goes. If he accepts that and goes flatter, England could be a very strong side.
I just to add to that, Stuart, I think there's a bit of uncertainty about England because of the results, because of the change. I think they're a bit of a sleeping dog here. If they get their house in order and they get their structure in order, they have the players to beat anyone. They can physically match players. They have a lot of pace. They have a lot of talent. So, and as Matt said, someone like Marcus Smith, if he gets quality ball, it can be very, very dangerous. So you're not going to get an English pack ever that's small and that's not able to physically go after people. So if they get their game plan right and their structure, and I really feel, Borthwick will, he'll know the mood of the players. He'll try and really improve how they're feeling and make it a more enjoyable environment for them. So it may take a little bit of time, but I think we're going to see a bit of a bounce from England here in this championship. And as I said, for them, it's just get a result on Saturday. Then they've got Italy at home. And suddenly you get two good results, a little bit of feel-good factor, and they go to Cardiff in round 3. It's not beyond the realms of possibility that they could be 3 games, 3 wins, England, and really challenging for a championship. So the Six Nations throws up some funny results, but I think England are still going to have a big say in this championship.
Yeah, Matt, Alan says England could well go 3 from 3. Any chance of Scotland doing that?
Well, Stu, the thing that the last 6 months has taught us is for the first time in my memory, there's nothing between the top 8, 9 teams. They're all beating each other. Everyone's beating each other. Australia beat Scotland. Scotland missed a penalty. Australia then go and should have beaten France, who are, I think, the best team in the world. Should have or could have beaten Ireland, who is the second best team in the world. They took New Zealand to within 30 seconds of victory before an outrageous decision cost them the game. So, and Australia are not the best team in the world. So if we work on that theory, and we could say the same about Argentina, beat New Zealand and Australia, beat England, there's nothing between the teams. And that's really great for the World Cup, and it's great for the championship. Yes, Scotland could go 3. It's unlikely. because I think France, when you're hitting France, the chances of beating France are low. The France have Ireland away and England away, so that's tough for them. That's why I don't think there's going to be a Grand Slam. But when you go to Paris against France, so apart from those 2 home games, France are at home till next Six Nations. So the French are sitting there, wow. So when Scotland go to Paris, that's going to be anyone going to Paris in this Six Nations, that is a very, very hard ask to do that.
And for France, I think it's a case of, as you say, Matt, they get the first 2 games away from home. They'll go to Rome, and with respect to Italy, I think none of us would predict Italy turning France over there. So, and then they come to Dublin next week. They were here 2 years ago, and they muscled another result against Ireland when, I think if you remember, James Lowe's tackle into the corner. We think it's a try. they go up the field and they score 2 quick tries, and they do enough to, frustrate Ireland, and their power is pretty telling. The big improvement with me with France is their defence and their work rate. I think they're a hard team now to break down. No matter what players you had in the French team before kind of the last 2 seasons, if you were patient, if you built enough of phases, they get a little bit lazy. They switch off a little bit. I think Sean Edwards has done a remarkable job in getting them believing that this is what you have to do to win big games, and if we want to be the best in the world. And they have an incredible setup, don't they? Players to pick from. You live over their mat. If you were a French coach, the amount of players that you can choose from with all the top teams, even in the lower divisions, there's quality players. So depth is not an issue. It's all about psychology, getting them fit, and getting a good blend. And I think Fabien Galtier and Ibanez, but those 3 have done a brilliant job, because they've sat down and they've said, well, we should be a lot better. They hadn't won a championship since 2010 before last year. And they're, they have a brilliant squad. Cameron Walkie is going to be a loss to them, but Tau Fefanu will probably play in the second row with Paul Willems. So
not bad, is it?
Not a bad replacement. And they'll probably have some more. Flamont is another one that can go into the second row probably. Yeah. So a lot of good, excellent players. Their 2 hookers are world class.
Yeah.
So it's power, pace, strength everywhere. And of course, Dupont is the best rugby player in the world, I think, and he has shown that. Just defensively, he's so good. He stops the opposition. He just harasses the opposition halfbacks. He's kick chase, and then his ability to kick left and right. He's just such a brilliant weapon for them. But Ireland will still fancy. That's next week's pod, really. But I think in an overall picture, I think you're probably looking at France, England, Ireland to challenge for the championship. But Matt has said it here, and we may get a few sneaky Welsh viewers on the pod here. We're under no circumstances thinking we're going to Cardiff on Saturday, it's going to be easy. It's not. It's no way it's not. And in round 4, no matter what way Ireland are, going to Murrayfield again, Ireland are a big scalp. Gregor Townsend will really fancy Ireland. So, and of course, Italy, what they did in November, they beat Australia in November and Wales. So it should be a great championship, but sometimes it's in third gear at round 1. So hopefully we see some great rugby at the weekend and some great matches.
Yeah, Matt, last one on Italy, France. Do you still think the Grand Slam champions coming into it are yet to peak? And where do you see Italy? Is there any chance they could get 2 wins in this championship? Well,
I think we've got to give the Italians credit where credit's due, Stewie. They've beaten Wales, they've beaten Australia, then they drop, horrifically to Georgia. But we've got to give Georgia credit too. They also beat Wales. So, again, it comes back to my point. A lot of teams are beating each other. I think everyone's trouble with Italy is we want them to get better. Like, God, they've been hopeless for 10 years and they win a game. This is, well, as long as it's not against us, that's great, The Italians have improved. They've basically, in my view of that, they've got 16, 17 players now that are there fighting. And if your opposition doesn't have a good day, the Italians have bridged a significant amount of the gap between where they were and where the other Six Nations teams were. They've proved that with their performances and their results. Can they get 2 wins? Well, it's going to be tough, Stu. I think any win's going to be tough for them. Yeah. But it's not impossible. And that's a great thing because, it was only maybe 2 seasons ago, or even the beginning of last season, we're saying, well, look, it's 50 points every time against Italy. People aren't thinking that anymore. That's healthy for the championship, healthy for Italy. I just can't see them doing that to France. France, as I've said, and Al and I keep saying, France is the best team in the world, in my opinion, at the moment. And I can't see a way that the Italians can overcome that. Could they rattle Wales and Scotland? Yes, they could. I think the other 3 are beyond them right now. But that doesn't mean they won't. I think the big thing as far as the championship goes on Sunday, remember we've got that, we're broadcasting that on Virgin Media, is the preview we'll see of what are France doing before they get to Ireland. the next week. Because that to me is the big game of the championship for Ireland. They win that game, the world changes for them as far as the championship goes. Because Galtier, just to finish on this, Galtier said, we're not the defending champions, we're attacking 2023. Great mindset, great statement from a coach. Forget last year, we're not defending champions, that's over, that's in the history books. We're attacking 2023. So let's see what this French side can do. Remembering, everyone's talking about the French injuries. Galtier again deserves credit. When they toured Australia 2 years ago, he left all but one of the starting 15 at home. He went to Japan, left everyone of the starting, I think it was starting 18 at home. So he has developed depth. So as Quinny said, don't read the paper, France have got a lot of injuries. They have. But let me tell you, the quality they got in the cupboard goes very, very deep. Back to 45 players, I think. They have got so much depth. It's quite extraordinary. So Sunday's game against Italy will be another fascinating window for the week after when Ireland catch them.
Yeah, as you say, Matt, serious amount of depth. Well, don't forget to like and subscribe to the podcast. But before we go, lads, I know it's both your favourite times. I can tell by the smiles on your face. Predictions for round one, please. Matt, first to you.
Ireland with a prayer. It's as we're going to say again, really close margins. But I think Ireland can win that game. I think England will win and France.
And Alan?
Yeah, it's probably the same for me. Scotland, dangerous proposition. Wales for both England and ourselves. But yeah, I think on form, probably Ireland. You couldn't say on form for England, but I just think the home advantage, they'll probably get over Scotland and France.
Well, interesting calls, lads. We shall see. Thanks for joining me as always.